Good evening. Welcome. We'll give people a minute or so, hop in, and then we will dive into the weekly close. Decent price action. Hopefully, some positivity to discuss. We'll see. Okay, welcome aboard. Hope everybody's had a good weekend. We'll take a run through the markets, take a look at crypto. Won't be around for we will be around for futures open. All right, in that case, we're good. We're good. We got futures open too. Potentially some impact there, based on kind of like tariff discussions again. Obviously back and forth on that. I think market is well aware of that. So shorter term may see impact. We've seen pretty good price action on BTC mainly. We saw a pretty decent day on alts yesterday. So hopefully now in a decent position overall to hopefully sustain this rally moving forwards. But we'll take a little bit of a look now. All right, so we'll start off with BTC. Pretty decent push, honestly. Pretty decent push by BTC through here. I think this is the main resistance that kind of we've been looking at on the mid time frames, this 4-hour zone that we've got through here. And so far, we're trading back above that level. RSI is in a pretty good position down here as well. We've still got pretty decent levels from the 12-hour. We've still got the potential of this daily kind of rolling into the upside and being positive on the upside. So there's some pretty good signs still on these time frames that the upside is we're still going to get that continuation in the upside essentially. Had a little bit of a push here into overextension. We'll probably get a little bit of a dip down into the mid 84s again. We just want to see that level really stabilize as some sort of support. And if we get that, again, we can feel more positive about the upside. And largely the same picture is mirrored then that we have from the index perspective as well. We've got a big resistance through here, which is a 4-hour resistance at 5,700. If we can reclaim that and we can get some stability over that, then once again we're in a good position to continue the rallies and add more evidence into what we need to see in order to be confident that that our bottom is setting in and in place here. But I think we're a long way off that still. I think we're a long way off knowing if that's going to be the case or not. Despite the fact that every time I log into Twitter, it seems to just be discussions about kind of the bottom and whether or not you've missed it or you're bidding it or whatever else. But again, just focused discussions of the bottom. I think still a significant way off being able to determine if that's going to be the truth or not from these regions. Man, is this price action this fucking slow? Shit's not even like moving. It's got into like fucking Morse code price action. Generational bottom. I would love to see it, but I also doubt it. then we'll dive over to ETH quickly, actually, and take a look there, because ETH's setting up relatively decently as well. Been speaking about kind of like the risk reward of ETH through this area here. And this level just providing the cleanest example of risk reward that we can find through here. So just holding 1950 is really important for ETH. And then we're looking, obviously, then for continuation towards 2150s. This is the best area that we can see up here as a major resistance point for us now on ETH when it comes to the higher time frame. So a really significant point on the daily. Huge interaction back here, late 23, early 24. Big reactions on the bounces, mid 24, and then hold up before we plummeted through in February into March. So this area here being the really big resistance that we want to see ETH trading above. Get back above there, and I think the market actually is in a relatively decent place to sustain some of these rallies. And again, I think that probably adds a lot of evidence back into kind of the strength aspects of some of these markets. But again, resistance is resistance until it's overcome. And so I would expect those areas to be rejecting with the state of the trend that we're currently in, which is, you know, a little bit kind of like doomer of me to speak in that regard. But again, you know, kind of trust in the trend until otherwise proven incorrect is usually the safest option that we can take in the markets for now. Bought the ETH dip at 2,700. You mean 27 or 17? I mean, I'm still like 40% underwater, so, you know, any upside on ETH would be great for me. I was a winner of the breakout evaluation, TJ. Nice one, man. I'll just shoot you a message. I've got breakout on Twitter and breakout on TG to sort. So thank you, Jasper. Feel free to send me a DM as well, and I'll get it sorted direct with you. You can come straight to the horse's mouth if you want to. Yeah, man, the BTC price action just looks broken. Okay, we finally moved. Okay, that's better. I think futures open is probably relatively important tonight, given that what we've seen in crypto. And we know that historically Mondays have been those, you know, kind of very bad days on the crypto side of things. You know, we've generally experienced good times at the weekend straight into Monday, which has been horrific. So fingers crossed that it doesn't go that way. But momentum, 2,700 wasn't a typo. Yeah. Listen, I'm right there with you. Would it be fair to say that anyone who has attempted to trade reclaims or breakouts the past few months has been wrecked for the most part? I don't think so. I think the market has been trading relatively strongly in terms of directionally down. So I don't think we've really had many kind of reclaims or breakouts of significance, because all of those levels have typically just been lost. So yeah, I mean, like, I think one of the major problems that we have is that I think a lot of people find that it's a lot harder to short the market than it is to get long on the market. And you see that in evidence in a lot of the Twitter posts that you see. So a lot of the Twitter posts you see will always be about like taking a shot here, think this is a good long setup, gonna buy some here, right? Like, naturally, we're kind of long focused by default. And so markets that are strongly downtrending are very difficult for a lot of people because they struggle to adjust to being able to short instead of being able to long the markets. So from that perspective, potentially, you can see more people being stopped out or having a poor time because they are counter trend. Those upside moves are typically harder to catch. They're weaker usually in their response. And then the downside is more aggressive, which ends up kind of ripping us back into stop out round trip mode. Naturally, like I said, we're primarily functioned and programmed to want to be long on these markets and to attempt long opportunities and buying opportunities versus downside stuff. Yeah, Fartcoin's been very, very strong off that low. Very significant in terms of the divergence that it formed. Really, really good through the lows through here on the divergence forming, the AO and RSI both supporting it all the way down through this region here. And then really strong move back above here as well, above 40. So I kind of figured that probably 42 was around where this would hold up. Somewhere like taking this high here. Thought this was actually a relatively decent point for it to hold up. Did a very good job of flipping this area here, resetting the RSI nicely as well, and then just providing the next leg up. So you got no divergences currently on the 4-hour. No divergences present there. You've got the potential for this slowdown into this next high here. But as it stands right now, this market looks as though it's just getting ready to try and move again into 55 through here. Looks really, really decent at the moment. And then, you know, higher time frame wise, if kind of you're not a part of this, I think that anything that trades down to 41 and starts sticking now is probably relatively decent in terms of the retest that you're looking for. You're just looking for this now. Anything that sells off back down here, higher time frame, good significant level for us here and here. Decent here as well. Good resistance right underneath for the breakout. So yeah, anything that trades sweeps 40 and then is closing dailies back above is probably a decent sign. Yeah, Sol and Grass and my spot bags, my spot accumulation list. All right. Sol, it's just been weak through here. Like this isn't really doing a lot. It's a very similar divergence to BTC. So you can see it on the AO kind of primarily through here. So this one here, and it mirrors what BTC is currently doing as well. If we just quickly flick over here, it's the same divergence here. And, you know, largely they're both doing the same thing. Sol is just obviously weaker at this current moment in time. I've been discussing just the range here on Sol, and I think that's just the easiest way of playing this as it currently stands. And if we just delete everything, we can just remap everything out here to make it nice and simple for everyone. And the higher time frame range is good on Sol. So you've got one level which is down here, which is like the 130s, if I'm not mistaken. There's another level here. That's me also just not looking at the price while I'm drawing these lines. And then you've got the other one, which is basically like 185s and 200s. I mean, you can use 185s here. Yeah, that's probably more significant for us in the shorter term anyway. So you basically got like these levels. Like these are your key levels for Sol. Now, as it stands, from a simple risk-reward perspective, your best position is being long here. Okay, like we're at support. We're at this higher time frame region. Your best setup is being long into this resistance. Like that is the risk reward side, definitely favors you being on the long side here. Again, the market's weak. I don't know how much bounce is in this. It's completely, you know, kind of down to you individually if you want to take a trade like this. But risk reward perspective, I think affords you far better odds at taking, or far better parameters for a setup of taking this long side setup and playing it to resistance. And if we overcome 160s, then looking for 185s. If we overcome 185s, then it's probably a completely different market dynamic overall. And so that situation is probably looking, you know, very, very different in terms of mood and the feelings of the participants as well through these zones. When it comes to like spot accumulation side, I think 130s you want to see hold. But again, from that simple logic of this feels as though it's a decent area, we're significantly down off the high now as well. If we were to take the wicked high all the way down here, it's 62% discount on the market. And then this level here is probably the interesting one for any downside loss, because downside loss here is obviously gonna set the emotion running, and it's going to kind of have people calling for a lot of crazy things. Like one of the nice things markets do is like they do moves like this. So it will give this leg here, which then looks like death and doom, but then it very quickly reverses. And moves like this are particularly nasty, you know, for a few reasons, in that it entices breakdown shorters. People puke their positions from support, and people puke their spot holdings. And so when you get these very quick reversals, you've then got shorts that are being stopped out, and you then have longs that are either then sidelined or have to make the decision to re-enter. And so like these moves here are very, very powerful. They do a huge amount of damage, and there's certainly something to keep an eye on and look out for. Because if Sol pulls this move here, especially if it runs sub 100, like you can just imagine what the timeline will look like on Twitter. And, you know, unironically, that's probably the best time to be getting long. I don't know how much I would look for the downside here on Sol. Again, like, what can you do? Like, shorting 130 feels pretty gross. Given where we are right now and with the potential for a triple divergence still on Sol, I still think I'd rather be trying to position long if you get the final flush, or you just position long from here and just say, fuck it, it has to hold. And there's quite a few markets that are actually in that position. And obviously BTC is one of those as well in terms of the potential for another leg on the divergence. You know, for kind of forgoing the fact that BTC actually looks pretty decent at the moment, you know, that move there with a wick, you know, so what you'd end up with is you'd probably end up with like a daily close somewhere here, like 76. You'd end up with a wick down here. And then this being the opportunity to really rally back up the other side. Like even something like that is not out of the question. This level here at the 50 has been very, very strong in holding. And that is probably the other side of the argument. Because I'll present both sides to you, because I've got no clue which direction this market's going to run. You know, I have no clue where we're going from here. That's the unfortunate thing about kind of current discussions. There's no signal for me to really trade through this region. And I think that, you know, all we can do really is kind of present the criteria for what would warrant a trade in both directions, the same as on Sol. Like the BTC side of things, there is something that has been very significant through this area of price action, and that is that this level here at the 50, the midpoint, the trend reset point on the RSI, has yet to be broken. If that does break to the upside, it's typically a very good sign to get involved in the market. So when we finally get moves that actually break through this level, it's usually a very good sign to start participating in the upside. It's a very simple signal, but this is something that has held now for nearly 2 months. And so when that changes, when that breaks, when that flips, it's usually a very good time to get involved. RSI flips like that, especially on the higher time frame, are super easy, simple triggers to participate in markets. And we've seen it before from a weekly perspective. And we spoke about this quite often from, you know, kind of like the weekly side of things. You had one here. We just jammed under this level for the best part of 9 months, 10 months. And then we finally just get the huge breakthrough through here. And again, it just pays to be part of those kind of transition moves there. Same here. Trade underneath for a huge amount of time. When we get that crossover, it's a very simple play to then just participate in a market that has evidently changed conditions. So we'd obviously love to see something similar on BTC. Isn't the perfect retest of 73k weakness and we're either front running it or nuking through it? Yeah, absolutely. One side of the thought process, like one side of the thought process for sure. I know that that's something kind of, you know, that was brought up in stream maybe last week, that Donald has been, you know, referencing the fact that that would be a more bearish scenario potentially for us. And yeah, I've been saying there's an argument for that, because realistically, when you get levels like that, and especially under consolidations that are 8 months in length, you really don't want to see those levels revisited again. There's usually no reason for the market to go back down to those levels. So typically, we would like to just see us just clear those and just rally, and that's it, done. Was that really... one of the most interesting areas of the market right now for me is not even crypto, it's Tesla. It's this fucking retarded shit about fucking Tesla puts and Tesla shorts and people engaging in buying puts for Tesla. Like, what was it? $100 puts were spiking for June 25. Like 3-month expiry on $100 puts. Like, what are these people doing? And I posted about Tesla on Saturday. And the reason that I find Tesla so interesting is there are times in the market where it's very easy to get caught up in the emotion of what's happening or the strength of whatever's happening at kind of any given moment in time, without really thinking about the bigger picture and the simplicity of the markets very often. And I look at Tesla and you say, well, this is a major company. This is a major global company and somebody also that now has a position in government. And this is also a market that is 55% down. 55% down. Is this just something that we look at in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, and we say, what the fuck were we doing all just watching CBS's stream while we could have bought Tesla at 55% discount? Is it not just one of those times where 55% discount on a major company should just be considered as simply as that? Like, how, at what level does kind of the euphoria on the bearish side peak? Arguably, is that when normies are buying puts for $100 in June? Like, is that not the sign of bearish euphoria? 55% discount. It just feels like it's one of those times that, you know, like this one here was a 66% and it's generational low. This one here, 40%. This one, the big one, 75. 55. Like, it's got a history, right? It's not like it's the first time it's ever corrected to this degree. But again, I just look at it and I think, simplicity perspective, we got to be close. How much downside is realistic? I mean, these guys, $100 puts. $100 puts. So, like, that's in 3 months. That's a wild series of events that probably has to unfold to get us close to that. How's the monthly? Yeah, rough 2 months, but straight down at the 50 level. I mean, that's potentially concerning. Do you hold off because you're nervous about the wider environment? Potentially an argument in doing so on that side. But again, I mean, like AMD is another. There's so many markets out there. We've been discussing actually in the Haven quite a bit over this weekend. I've kind of been discussing how many people are interested in kind of the TradFi markets, because it feels like a good time to be interested in TradFi. You know, you're not interested in TradFi when it's been on, you know, relentless bull run to the upside and everything's pumping, and suddenly you're interested because Wall Street Bets guys are having this incredible time. Right? Or like your normie friends that only trade stocks are having an amazing time. Like, it's actually a time to be interested just because of the deep discounts available. So I don't know, that side just feels relatively interesting right now. And especially when there's a smaller pool of selection on the crypto side of things, given that I'm sure a lot of you are probably disregarding a lot of the watch list now in terms of alt selections and alt picks. They're selling naked calls. Yeah, it's like financial suicide. Like that, especially that is madness. Like selling calls for anyone, right? For anyone. If you have limited knowledge in terms of trading, if you have limited options experience, you only ever buy, right? You buy puts, you buy calls. You never ever touch the sell button, right? Ever. All right. BTC sets up really nicely on the 15-minute here as well. Really good looking 15-minute kind of consolidation cool off here with the RSI in a really nice position. What have we got? 30 seconds till the open. Pretty decent spot. What's the plan for this week? Crypto, stocks, metals. I might trade some crypto this week. Yeah, I might trade some crypto this week. We'll see. Yeah, nice gap open. Nice, just with 1 second to spare. Yeah, if the momentum continues, then I think it's in a good position to trade some crypto. I think there's potentially some easier long setups. I think like APT is also a decent one through here. I don't know what the price action's been like on this, but it's a really good looking chart from a kind of a higher time frame perspective. This reclaim here is really good. This RSI reset is nice on the 12-hour as well. You can see here, it's just a good level that's been reclaimed and supported from kind of those mid time frames. So stuff like this, like if there's easy value to try and be achieved on lower time frame for crypto, then I might take some crypto trades. ETH to 2150 still feels like a trade. Again, assuming we get upside. Like this still feels like a trade. Probably end up trading Fartcoin. I think I'd probably end up focusing on ETH, honestly. Just because I think the risk reward is pretty easy there. What's the situation on the lows like for BTC? Yeah, this looks good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure people are pointing out the lows just because they're kind of like very clean through here. Like you've got like this one, 81. You got this one at 79. But again, right now the market's in decent shape. So, and I mean, the problem is you need everybody to just keep their mouths shut for another week. Like just nobody say anything. You know, not like us on Twitter, like world leader status. Like just please stay quiet for a week. Like that's what we need. I think that's the only way that we start to get some significant movement back. Because fucking hell, as soon as they open their mouths, then we start shitting the bed real quick. Did you see the insanity that happened with the auction this week? 5x to minus 50%. I mean, I guess minus 50% is fine after a 5x, right? Yeah, you're asking for a lot. Yeah, too much. I know it. What happened that made futures gap up so much? Trump tariffs, lighter touch. It's like the news summary. Can you feed my Palantir bullish thoughts, maybe? Yeah, Palantir, I pretty much know that chart. Like weekly higher time frame reset, gap fill, good position. Palantir is such a great fucking stock as well. Like even from a leadership perspective, it's just so fucking cool. And I mean, is it going to be, again, you just add like Palantir to the Tesla thought process? Like, is there anything better than just like the bears getting blown out again on a stock like that? I think Tesla will provide some of the best viewing this week from a stock perspective. I mean, the best possible thing that could happen to Tesla is it goes down. Like the best possible thing would be Tesla to the downside to start the week and then rips. Like paint like a bull div on the daily and then I can send it. Yeah, we covered Tesla, man. Yeah. Some of the shit going on there. I seen like the quotes of that. I mean, like again, it's Reddit, so take it with a pinch of salt. But that person that's like, I put 140K into puts. Like, I didn't think I'd see a time actually where we'd actually have people dumping life savings into short positions. Like on Twitter, we see it, you know, people entering highly leveraged shorts, getting liquidated, etc. But like normies learning how to short. Can I trade Tesla on the exchange? You said last stream. Ostium? No. No individual stocks, just the indexes. So unfortunately not. But yeah, I mean, AAVE, another market, I think is in pretty decent shape. Doing pretty decently at these like SR flips that it seems to be going for. Still got room to the upside. Again, plays into like ETH performing well. Hype, still got room because of this rundown here. Like I think you've still got room against this. This is still kind of the natural challenge point up at 18. Plenty of charts in the classic situation you can look at and you can say, well, look, there's obvious price targets on the upside, like hype. You know, it's an obvious target, let's say, to sweep all of this grind down region here. And then at the same time, you've also got plenty of reason to look at things like Sol and be like, actually, I can see why this is just a higher time frame consolidation, and this ends up resolving to the downside. Like, we're struggling now at 135. Don't think that level will break. This probably resolves lower. Then we get a chance to long down here. It's a tricky market. And especially when we're locked in these higher time frame consolidation patches. That's why you look for outliers like Fartcoin that can provide you independent price action to be able to trade. Plus also had a very good higher time frame signal. But a lot of markets right now are just making it very difficult to actively have higher time frame conviction on which direction they're going to move, aside from taking lower time frame signals. Yeah. So I missed the start. Still upside moves for bearish retests. I mean, that is still the way that we would have to treat it within the current environment. So you'd have to say, well, BTC still looks good in terms of potential to achieve further upside. Absolutely. Higher time frame, we know it's still downtrending on the daily, so we're looking for some sort of flip there. That's really kind of where we are on the positioning front, let's say. Lower time frame momentum, higher time frame still in a downtrend. Do you see Coinbase trying to acquire Deribit? Really? Why? I'm assuming just professional options. That would be my assumption, that it's just a case of professional options slot in and it just makes sense to take Deribit out of the box. I don't know how many Deribit users that we've got left. Like, Deribit is a very professional focused options platform. And I say that because of the presentation of the information. It's not exactly a retail friendly options venue. Yeah. As I said, I can only assume it's because they want to take the options as it is and provide that as an option for customers. Because there's no other real reason that you'd want Deribit. Yeah, Deribit has perps, but no one uses Deribit for perps. That's what I guess I mean. It's like, I don't understand why Coinbase would need a perps exchange, like, because they run that anyway, right? What platform do you use for options? So I use Deribit, and I use Synquote on chain. But yeah, again, UI perspective, Deribit just isn't it for a retail trader. It's so intense. Just information overload for the majority of people, which is unnecessary. So probably a week again that's just going to be determined by how the burgers treat this when the US Open happens. That's probably where we're going to be. Like, whatever those guys decide directionally, that's probably how we're going to start off. And then hoping that nobody says anything that fucks things up for us. please, Mr. President, no more winning. Yeah. How's Twitter been? How's the mood on Twitter? People still, you know, upbeat or? I've been sticking to just Discord and the thoughts of you guys on stream. Max short Trump? I could not tell you the price of Trump. I could not tell you. What was the last price I remember it trading at? I haven't looked at it on the watch list. I got my eyes closed as I think. What was the last price I saw it trading at? Did I see it trading at maybe like 18? I'm going to say that Trump, as a completely wild guess, is currently trading at $14.10. Fuck. 11.44. Yeah, 18 was about, yeah, it's about right. Twitter is terrible. Everyone's giga bullish. Are they really? That's kind of interesting. Yes, the morning routine memes. Yeah, I have seen, like, when I've been on, I've seen people. I've obviously seen kind of like the original content production, and then every time that I've been on Twitter this weekend, it's been people complaining about how much they're seeing content around that. So I'm really glad I've missed that patch of getting pissed off with ingesting all those fucking same avenues of content. People are fucking tier list meta again. What are your thoughts on ENA? Yeah, bottom of the weekly range. Like, again, risk reward perspective, just take it as one fucking giant historical fucking region. Probably pumps, honestly, probably pumps. If the market turns positive, this is a market that will move like Fartcoin, I would imagine. I would suspect this pulls a run up here. Still very much got the divergence pattern in effect. I would suspect that market does pretty well. Oh, I see everyone calling for 70K. Okay, nice. So that's basically the two different algos now in effect. What Bear Whale's seeing and what Ross is seeing, two different things. Algo doing work. Nice little push on BTC. Yeah, let's have a look. You can't take this based on the daily yet. You just haven't got enough information. Also a pretty fucking monstrous level through here. Like, this is huge. So it has to overcome this. If it does, great. But also, I think you don't have to be too kind of occupied with this, because if it produces this move, then fine. Like, this is great. If you get some sort of like deviation here, wonderful. But just reclaim this. I think you can just wait for this. I wouldn't be panicking about getting positioned on something like this right now. Like we said about BTC last time, you know, the only thing you need to do is catch the market when those uptrends actually begin or when those significant reclaims happen. You don't need to fuck around in areas like this, and you certainly don't need to panic that you're going to be late to something. If you simply ignore social media and you just play significant reclaims, you're going to be in such a good position. When you're browsing Twitter all the time, you're really going to find yourself, you know, making irrational decisions based on the language that's used on Twitter. You know, all it takes is a $2,000 move in the price of BTC, and suddenly the emotion is so strong on the bullish side on Twitter that it becomes, you know, kind of very difficult to think rationally about what price is doing. ZRO above that level, relatively speaking. Okay, let's take a look. See if the logic checks out. Yeah, okay, so I'll give us like a wider box here again, because we don't have to be precise with this. Right? But like we're saying like somewhere here, right? Decent retest points. Decent area here. Should be holding. Big extension. So again, trend environment, that isn't great, right? The big move up here isn't great, but potential to hold here, not too bad. Again, you've got time. You've got time. You don't have to be rushing into anything. Just like wait and see how the market settles. Because that's really where we are. And I'll begin kind of rounding off the stream here anyway, just because the price action is relatively stale and the markets are in largely the same positions as they were midweek. But you've got two paths, okay? And I really want to kind of discuss some of the psychology around the markets and also what you should be considering from that kind of just investor perspective. You can absolutely choose to be a buyer of any market at any time as long as you deem there to be value from your personal beliefs perspective. If you believe that you're going to be holding BTC for the next 5 years and you think that 85,000 is a good enough price point to give you good returns in 5 years, that's when you buy it. Right? That's your thought process. The same with Tesla. You know, if you consider a 55% discount in one of the world's largest companies to be a good discount and you are planning on holding for the next 5 years and you believe that Tesla will be trading at a higher price, that's a good enough reason to buy it. That's all it comes down to. What do you think about the price today versus where the price will trade at the end of whatever your time horizon for your trade is? That's all you need to consider. The other side to that is if you want to be more focused on the TA and you're not as fussed about kind of, you know, a 5-year time horizon, what you're interested in is catching trends as they kind of develop and materialize. The majority of what we're looking for in these markets right now are changes to structure. Everything's downtrending and you need things to reclaim levels. So that's what you're looking for. Now, you don't have to get down into the weeds and kind of do so much analysis every day to try and, you know, catch things at pico bottoms or pico sell-offs. Like, you've got so much time. Every time a major trend has developed in any market, you've had weeks and weeks to actually just buy it. The big problem, as most people know, and I'm, you know, preaching to everybody who already knows this, but the big problem is holding something. It's not actually buying, it's holding. Like, you just need to buy at some point, and then you need to then deal with a psychological battle that is holding something. Because as price goes up, you start to rotate, you sell, you move on, etc. But like, honestly, we've got so much time, and we'll continue doing these streams and piecing together the puzzle as we go along. And so a big thank you again for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure, as always. Big thank you to the guys at Pocket Protector. Going to be doing a lot of stuff with them over the next 3 weeks or so. So keep an eye out for some very, very interesting and good things that are happening at Pocket Protector. And have a wonderful, wonderful rest